Hey lovely sexy hobby people, welcome to today's video, which is going to be the review for issue 59 of Warhammer Combat Patrol. We get our Boomdakka Snazzwagon for the orcs with this issue. I was actually quite surprised that it was a single sprue, although it's quite a large frame. I was very surprised that everything is on one sprue. So my delivery dropped earlier on in the week, which means that I have issue 60, which are the Einherjar Hearthguard. Then we have our first of the new combat, the two new combat patrols. So it's going to be Imperial Guard, and in this issue the first of our Genestealer Cults with the Magus, and then we get a paint issue in 62. Now, because I didn't unsubscribe, because I never do, I get all the extra kits and that so that you guys can see them. I got the third character pack that Hachette have and GW have put with this collection, which is Boss Snickrot, the Orc Commando boss. It looks like he's got 3 head options actually, so that's pretty cool. So we've got him as well, and I got premium kit number 3, which is just open that up. So it is Killer Cans and Brokir Thunderkin is what we get with premium kit number 3. So come and join me in the desk. We'll have a look at issue 59. Hey lovelies, let's have a look at issue 59 of Combat Patrol. Boomdakka Snazzwagon. I do like the fact that there's grot changed to the front, Mad Max Fury Road style, to this vehicle. Let's pop that over there. Stick that down there. Let's get and have a look, shall we? Damn dynamic. Right, here we go, straight off, and we're having to mess about separating pages. Now, let me just bring you back a little bit that way. So, straight off, we're into how to build. And we have a grot, I believe, which is hanging on the side with a sidearm. Then we've got our grot on the front. Then we're building the engine. So this looks like it's going to be a separate sub-assembly, so that'll be made and built for painted, separately. This looks like it could also be useful to make as a separate sub-assembly. So build and paint this part. Looks like from the engine we're building up the cockpit for the vehicle. And the main chassis, and it looks like we've got independent suspension and wheel hubs going in, which is, you know, nice to see them doing that. It doesn't do anything obviously model wise, but it's nice to see that they've sort of like looked at that sort of thing. And your chassis will end up looking something like this, with a flat area with a fuel tank at the back, space for seating and the cockpit, and then the engine. And if you look, this little thing here is very similar to something that's found on the death copters, just underneath the rotor system. So that's interesting. Then we have our sides being built up. Essentially it's just a roll cage being bolted on, which has like scrap armour attached to it. Then we have our exhaust stacks, which are very reminiscent of the Death Dread. Wheels, our pilot with, or our driver with the chair going in. And it's like he's going to be lobbing a Molotov cocktail. No. Yeah, he's got a Molotov cocktail, and the gunner has a Molotov cocktail. So, petrol bombs galore here. It may well be that I build the driver separately and keep him separate from the vehicle for ease of painting, because there's nothing worse than trying to get in and paint a miniature and you're having to try and work around several different bits of framework, etc. And it does look like this stuff. So it does look like the grot that's hanging off the side, the grot that's on the plough on the front, and your gunner assembly are all separate, so that you can paint them separately. But also, it looks, they're saying here the grot is quite difficult to get into position under the roll bar, but he will fit. Follow the steps above. So it looks like you sort of like slide him in and then rotate him into position. But also, as I was about to say, the driver and this Boomdakka gun here look like you can paint them separately as well. So here's your sub-assemblies. I won't attach, I'm in two minds about attaching it to the base. Because it's a vehicle, my theory is that you measure to the hull, right? The footprint of the hull, not necessarily the base of the thing. So I'd be quite happy to leave him off of the base. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below, if you think it's better to have this on a base or not. So here we go, all the painting. So you're starting off with a Mephiston, Abaddon Black rather, Abaddon Black base coat. So spray it with Chaos Black. Then it looks like you're dry brushing it with Lead Belcher, so heavy dry brush. And then we're coming in with the red, because obviously red makes things go faster. Painting up your orcs. Got Wraithbane for teeth. Picking out some various bits and pieces like bottles with blue. The grot on the front, his loincloth is going to be blue. Avalon Sunset for the fuel barrel. And yeah, so that is where you end up so far with your orcs and your orc buggy. It does look cool. So there you go. Right, so Boomdakka Snazzwagon. We have in our grey collect, we have a background rolling, D6 rolling chart here for the wagon. And then we have our data sheet. So it has a 12-inch move. It's got toughness 7. It's got a 4-up save and a 6+ invulnerable save. It's got 9 wounds, leadership 7, and objective control 3. It has a big shooter, rapid fire 2, 36-inch range, 3 attacks, ballistic skill 5+, strength 5, AP 0, and damage 1. It has a mech special, which I'm assuming is the pintle mounted weapon. which is assault, rapid fire, 4 sustained hits, 24 inches, 12 attacks, ballistic skill 5+, strength 5, -1 AP, 1 damage, and then the Grot Blaster is pistol. It's just got 1 attack. It's a 4+ ballistic skill, strength 3, 0 AP, 1 damage, and then spiked wheels as your melee. And the spiked wheels have 4 attacks, weapon skill is 4+, strength is 7, AP is -1, and it does 2 damage. Billowing Fumes, Aura. While an enemy unit, excluding monsters and vehicles, is within 6 inches of this vehicle, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, subtract 1 from the hit roll. So there you go. Right, scenario 36, the Speed Freak. So we're going to pit our Boomdakka Snazzwagon with the Chaplain on bike. Here we go. The crew of the Boomdakka Snazzwagon look out over the plain below them. Amid the heaps of rubble and scrap, they spot a plume of dust travelling quickly towards them. The telltale signs of another vehicle on the move. Stopping only to throw some rubbish out of the window and discharge some of their dirty oil onto the ground, they set off to intercept it. Soon they draw level and see that it is a Space Marine chaplain riding a huge bike. He reaches for his sidearm, but before he can draw it and execute the Snazzwagon's driver, the orcs let off a salvo of shots and then zoom ahead, throwing up a cloud of dust. For a second the orcs wonder if they have lost him already, but then the chaplain emerges from the cloud, the twin bolt rifle mounted on his bike firing furiously. The orcs reply with another round of gunfire and then rev their engine to the max. The race is on and there can only be one winner. How to win? If the orc crew of the Boomdakka Snazzwagon can complete 3 full laps of the track before their vehicle is destroyed, then the orcs player is the winner of the scenario. Space Marines. If the Space Marine player can destroy the Boomdakka Snazzwagon before it completes 3 full laps of the track, then the Space Marine player is the winner. And this is your track. So it's set up like this. You're using 2 battle mats, using the grey desert side, and they're placed long edge to long edge. And as I say, the track is that way round. So how to play, shooting phase, and then Orc or Space Marine victory conditions. And then looking forward, we've got our Einhir Hearthguard and then a Magos for the Gene Stealer Cults. Let's have a look at the plastic. So we get a huge base. What size base is this? This is, it doesn't actually say, I don't think. Mm, 105mm oval base. So we get a 105mm oval base, and this is a sculpt date of 2018. So we have our wheels, which are in halves, essentially. Here's our side roll cage, our engine, our gunner, the driver's legs, the plough at the front, although it could just be like the front fairing, but it looks like it's some sort of like cattle catcher, you know, like you used to see on the old American West steam trains. And here's our grot, which is spread eagle across the front of the plough at the front. So yeah, it's looking good. That doesn't actually look to be. It doesn't actually look to be too complicated putting it together. Although it looks like there's a plethora of parts. It doesn't look. I'm not seeing any additional weapons. So we have the shooter in the passenger side window. here at the front of the cab, and then we have our pintle mounted weapon, and that seems to be it. I can't see anything else. I can't see any other options for this really. So with that said, shall we crack on and get it built? Right, let's go over to the desk. I'm going to start this build out by not doing the grots first off, but doing the engine. Now, the engine is made up of 5 parts initially. And essentially you have the main engine parts here that go together. And this is one of the, again, this is one of those pieces where you're going to need to walk yourself around it in a methodical manner, just to make sure that all the relevant areas get some glue. And then once you're happy, just push it together. Now we then have this piece which goes on there, and make sure you orient because it's kind of like a timing chain or a fan belt or something like that, but just make sure you orient it the right way up. So that essentially this pointy bit that's on it here points downward. You then have these kind of like rocker covers, I suppose you would call them. Just make sure your filler caps go on the right end, correct end, which is towards, I think that's supposed to be the gear shift there. So that's that bit, and then we're going to just stick that to the chassis. Now this will attach to the chassis this way around, okay, so that your fan belt, timing belt, whatever it is at the front. So this is the front of the vehicle here, and then you've got your cockpit, and then you've got the rear deck. So your engine will locate here. Okay, one engine. Now I'm going to come in a bit with some bits for the suspension, but what I'm going to do now is just add in the fuel tank, which goes there. And then this checker plate platform, which goes there. Okay, like so, and that's where we're up to. Right, next bit of the build. So this is what we had last time. I've added in one of the suspension units for the front of the engine. The reason being is that they both go together in the same way, it's just that it's mirrored. Now, the way I put this in was like this, because otherwise it's awkward, because it says to build up the sub-assembly first and then glue it into position. So what I did was I first glued in this item, and this item is keyed, so it will only go up one way. Okay, and then we have the wheel hub, and that's essentially just glue those two bits. And then from there, making sure you've got it round the right way, just pop your pin into the wishbone and then just align the suspension arm there. And that is it. Okay, so that's that. We've then got these panels which are going to go onto the front of the cockpit. Now there's one each side. This one is blank, you don't glue anything to this, the one on the left hand side, the near side, but the one on the right side, the off side, has this control column on it with the speedometer and the such. So, and then this is going to go into this part here, and I found that just adding in the glue there, like so, and then putting it in, and then it butts up against part of the exhaust manifold. So I'll just add in a tiny little bit where it makes contact, and that's that. And for the rear axle, in the instructions it labels this piece as 52. Well, we've already used 52, it's part of the suspension. I think, if I remember rightly, this was 12 or 13. Okay, and this, what you're supposed to do is flip this upside down and then slide this into position here like that. But I actually think it's going to be easier to, this goes in there like that, and it's supposed to attach to the pin. So if you orient your drive shaft correctly, like so, and then just twist it to make sure it's straight, and then you can slide these two bits on as one, and then just clip them into position, and then from there I will add the glue in, which should work with capillary action. Okay, and via these bits here. So that's that glued into position, all there, like so. And this is what we have so far. Okay, so the cockpit's coming together. I didn't notice this when I did the review section, but like on so many real cars, the passenger footwell is just full of detritus. I've got a friend who drives around and her car is exactly like that. Whenever I borrow it, I always tidy it up first because it's a bit disgusting, but you know, it is what it is. But yeah, and there you go. That's where we are. Right, where are we up to? So I have gone ahead and built up one side of the vehicle because the other side will go together the same way. And you don't need to see me do it twice, basically. So your roll cage frame here will go on, and then you've got some shocks and stuff like that to go on as well. So here is the side that we're going to work on. And here's what I recommend. You've got lots of little tiny little sub-assemblies. So I'm going to recommend sticking all these together now. Let's get all these done. Especially this one, which will glue to the frame. And then you have this, which will glue on here. Now in the instructions it says to glue the roll cage on and then glue this on separately. I personally think you can get away with adding that in now. Like so. Okay. And then we have this exhaust port, which is going to go on there. And again, I think you can get away with gluing it on now because it's not going to get in the way of anything. So that can go on like thus. Your little shock absorber that you've just built, okay, is going to go on here. Now this is keyed, so you need to make sure you get it round the right way. So there's a little tab here, and then there's a slot just inside here, and that is going to go on like so, and it's angled. It's kind of like what would be the A-frame pillar, the A pillar on the car's sort of like front windscreen door jamb. Oops, that was too much. Come back. So that's that. Then this is going to glue on here, okay? And what you have is it will go on around the side here, okay? So you get a really nice long seam here to add your glue into, and then you've got the rear axle and the brake hubs, the wheel discs, and then this little suspension arm is just going to sit on top of the front wishbone suspension there. So add in your glue. And just a tiny little attachment there, and then just push it on, just making sure that you get it in like so. And that is the main chassis for the wagon assembled. You then have this exhaust port. Now it's up to you whether you glue this exhaust on or not. I've glued them on. Some people might feel that it gets in the way of the painting of the side walls slightly, but I'm going to be just spraying this with lead belcher primer and then picking out details in different colours, so I'm not too worried. I'm probably not going to glue the wheels on at this stage, just basically so that I can get access and glue everything and get stuff done. Now, wheels. We've got 2 large wheels and 2 smaller wheels. So the large wheels have a tab and a slot. Just make sure that they are together, and then to be quite honest, all I've done is gone round and just added in the glue to ensure that it seeps down into where it joins. And once I've gone all the way round, I'll just push it together and get a little bead of plastic along that centre seam, which I can then, once it's fully dried, I can then file that down. With this one, you're just going to push the 2 halves together so they're serrated. Just going to push them together like that. And again, I'm just going to go round, making sure that the glue goes into that seam. Like so. And that's your wheels, basically. Wheels done. Okay, we then have, I am missing something. Where's that gone? There it is. Okay, so we then have a couple of bits that are going to go on. So we have this bull bar at the front. So that's going to go on there, like so. What you could probably get away with is gluing the top, and then glue the bottom. Like thus. Okay, and then you have this here, which is part of the back, and this is going to attach there and there, and I'm just going to add in the glue there, and then glue and glue. Okay. Right then, what should we do next? Now officially this kind of like cattle catcher here would glue on to this just here like that. But come on, get in there. But I'm not going to glue this on. It's basically for ease of painting, so that's not going to get glued on yet. For ease of painting, we have our wagon chassis. Let's build our pilot. So our driver, pilot, whatever you want to call him, is legs and torso, and he's in that position because he's leaning out the side of his vehicle. Okay, we then have his Molotov cocktail. Now I'm not necessarily going to glue that into position, and there's a reason for that, but we then have this arm, which is the one holding the steering wheel. And I'm just going to glue his steering wheel in place. Like that. And then you have the back of his chair, which has got two little pins on the back, which is going to locate into two little holes. And where it meets his back there, I'm just going to glue it for a bit of extra rigidity. And then the head is going to go into position like that. So that is what he looks like. I'm just going to let him go off for a second, just to toughen him up. Right, we have our grot that's hanging on the front of the bumper at the front, the plough, whatever you want to call it, the cattle catcher. Mad Max Fury Road style, and he just has the head attached like so. Now our big shooter here comes in various parts, so we're going to glue this piece on like that. Then we have the front muzzles for the triple barreled or double barreled or whatever it is shooter here. Yeah, so we've then got this, what I'm assuming might be like a power pack, which just slots onto the side here and then goes like that. Okay, now coming back to our shooter, so just look which way around the rounds are going, and that will denote which way, which side the belt feed goes in. Okay. Like that, and then that will just sit in there. But again, this is something I'm not going to glue into position. That's something that I'm going to glue once I've painted it. Now, this guy, this will then be pardon me, into position. It's kind of like he is facing that way. So that's that. Right, let's have a look at our gunner, and our gunner is Now, when I was dry fitting this, there seemed to be just a little bit of issues with the fit. So just work your way round. Okay. Making sure that you put
push this together to make it definitely glue in. Now this shoulder piece may be a little tricky because it doesn't seem, there you go. So that seems to locate into position just there, like that. And then his head goes in there. He looks like he's having fun. And then we have our grot hanging out the side, firing his pistol. And that's this guy here, like so. And again, this guy is, when he goes in, he is going to go in a manner which makes it so that you kind of like push him up and in. And I'm just trying to, it's because he faces rearwards, that's why. So he'll go on this side, facing rearwards. We'll work it out. But those are all the stages. Now the pilot will go in with a bit of a wiggle, bit of a jiggle, bit of a wiggle, and getting them into position. He'll kind of just all of a sudden click into place. So I'm kind of glad that I did keep him separate. Like so. There you go. So he goes into position, a little bit of wiggle, so I can paint him out of the vehicle and add in his Molotov cocktail a bit later on. Okay, so that goes in that position. His shooter goes there, like that. Then we have the roof, top of the cab, and the easiest way to do this is to line the pins up this side, like so, and then just click it in. Then your gunner is going to go on, like so, and then he is going to attach kind of here, like that. Okay, so his position in the wagon is going to be at the back. And then once you've got that done, we have the front bumper, cow catcher, whatever it is you want to call that, to go on. And then if you do want your grot on the front, he will literally just kind of go on in that position, like so. And he'll kind of like attach to the bull bars at the top here, so that he's kind of like that. On the front. But there you go. That was the Boomdakka Snazzwagon. It's a really nice little kit. I enjoyed putting that together. As I say, this will most likely, I will most likely spray this lead belcher and then pick out details from there. I'm leaving a lot of parts off so that I can paint, because there is a lot of detail on this. For example, like there's brake calipers on these rear wheels that you just wouldn't see, wouldn't be able to get to if you put the wheels on beforehand, and once the wheels and everything are painted and glued on, you are still going to be able to see them. Okay, they are still visible. So there you go, it's quite a lot of parts left, but hopefully I will see you in the next video. Alright, take care, bye bye.